When I found out there was an audition for the part, I went and looked at the original film and looked at some of the reviews of the time, some of the things people had said about the particular performances, about the characters, but essentially what people were saying was that Dorian Gray himself was an unplayable part. It was, it was a blank canvas, around whom, other people worked, and other people, got impressions of him, and it was a sort of reactive. It's if you play it as a reactive part, it's almost, it's going to be impossible. And then Ollie Parker, the director, rang me up and said, "Look, I'd love you to play Dorian Gray." After my 2 auditions, and he rang me up and said, "I'd love you to play Dorian Gray." And he said, "I've got this quote for you to think about, well, before you tell me whether you want to play it, which is that Dorian Gray is described in the book like a Stradivarius. He's the Stradivarius in the room. He's this violin, this sort of beautiful violin, which anybody can pick up and make the best out of, and he will respond and react to them in that kind of way. But that's very different to being a blank canvas. The potential of a Stradivarius is something which is kind of, enormous. I think there's a completeness to the arc of the character in the original, but I think it's principally a descent. It's a jump off a diving board. He's at his height, he's at his pinnacle, he's in his prime, and then he just dives off. And you follow him down because you want to see what happens when he hits the floor. Whereas in this, he dives down and then maybe something yanks him back up again, or and I think it's interesting to play with those tensions. I think that's what drives a drama through. I think in a lot of the other sort of adaptations of the story, the character of Dorian himself is not the focus of the story. The focus is the world and the things that happen to him, and the things that he does, rather than how he feels about them, or how the things that he does and the things that happen to him change him as a person. There are some changes to the second half of the story, certainly. There's the introduction of Henry Wotton's daughter, Emily, played brilliantly, I think, by Rebecca Hall. Even on the first day of rehearsal, I felt like she saw through me entirely. We were sitting there with our scripts. I sat down with Ollie for 2 or 3 days, and all the other characters kind of came in for a couple of hours and then went off again. And Rebecca came in and just hadn't even read the whole thing, I don't think, yet, or had read it once, and was just kind of looking straight at me and kind of boring into my soul in this kind of very gentle way. Yeah, she kind of captured it perfectly. But we've introduced her just to kind of, I think, toy a little bit at the end with the sympathies of the audience, and have something on which to focus Dorian's possible redemption. Is he going to be entirely lost forever, or is there the possibility of change for the positive for him? I've loved playing the sort of slightly the darker moments. I've loved playing the older Dorian, because in our story what we've done is we've clarified things by making a 25-year gap in the middle of the story. He's young. He's been in London a year. He's 21 years old. He's sort of the flavour of the month, and then he goes away for 25 years and comes back and looks exactly the same. And it's been very interesting filming those scenes. I've really enjoyed filming the sort of 46-year-old Dorian and wondering, because obviously he looks the same, so it's an interesting challenge to try and make him seem older by things like not being surprised by what people say or do. Not being a much better liar. It's just the ways that the experience have affected him, and they're very small. But I've loved trying to kind of achieve that, and it's been very interesting to see how the other characters have responded to me on those days, because they have often been they've often been aged in makeup, so they feel a lot more vulnerable, particularly Colin. On the days where he's sort of young and supposed to be manipulating me, he's sort of been bullying me on set, and then the days when he's, made up to look 70, the tables are entirely turned, because I feel and look exactly the same. And he feels a little bit vulnerable because he's balding and got a ridiculous grey moustache. It certainly feels like the right time to do it for me. The character's 21, I'm 27. but it's those few extra years which have given me the perspective to be able to acknowledge the sort of power of being 21. And I don't think I would have been able to play this 6 or 7 years ago. Ollie Parker has half directed and half babysat me through this, because I felt a little bit sick at the beginning of almost every morning, because I've been looking at the sides, the night before for the next day, and thought, I don't know how to make this real. I don't know how to make this believable. And I've come in the next day and said, look, I've got a few ideas, but basically I have no idea how to make this work. What do I do? And because Ollie himself used to be an actor, it's really helpful for me to see him kind of almost play it through. He kind of, sometimes he'll come over to me in the middle of in the middle of a scene and give me a note, and then as he walks off you can see him kind of playing with it and kind of doing it himself, and that's almost more useful. I mean, it's sort of cheating, but it's almost more useful than sort of trying to explain something,